and welcome back to my channel, Core & Co. My name is Katja and today's video is going to be a lower back exercise where we're actually kind of draped over the ball, and then we're going to be lifting our upper body back. So we're going to start with some stretches. We're going to do some back related stretches, which are kind of really yoga-y stretches. So hopefully by now you know with the channel to be ready to go as soon as the video starts. So get your mat ready, get a little towel, maybe if you need one, bottle of water, and of course your ball. So we're going to start face down, and then we're going to just concentrate on this lower back area just here. We're going to do some flexion and extension exercises. So by that I mean where we're going to fold the body forward and then extend it back. So it's going to be about compression and extension. And actually, if you watched the last video that I made, which was a sit-up exercise where we were seated on top of the ball, and we were lifting up and we were crunching in all of the core muscles. So I wanted the next video to follow on from that. If you watch them in order, I wanted the next video to follow on from that to be doing the opposite muscle. So in muscle terminology, everything works in pairs, and not only from top to bottom, from left to right, but from front to back at the same time. So every time we're using muscles on the front, they're pairing up with the muscles on the back, and this is called the knitting needle theory. So if you kind of jammed a knitting needle through here, it would poke out here. So this video is going to be about the reverse of the last video that we made. So, come to that in a minute. So lying face down on the mat. So lying face down, feet are flopped slightly out, like heels are slightly flopped outwards. We're just going to start by putting the forehead down on the mat. So let me know if you lose sound a little bit here. I'm just going to start with the head down on the mat. Hands are spread really wide. Spread all the fingers out so they're in line with your chest. Taking some nice deep breaths here. Really feeling that point of contact with the mat, with the belly. From here we're just going to raise the head. Facing forward, keeping the chin nice and proud. And you can almost just start to feel a little squeeze across here. Still keeping the hands by the chest. Keeping the elbows pushed back, almost kind of squeezing the elbows together. We're just going to push up from here. So we straighten out the arms. And just looking back up at the ceiling. Little flexion in the elbows, almost pushing the elbows back, bringing the chest forward. So here, we're just going to hold it here, just for a few seconds. And we're going to return the forehead back to the mat, nice and slowly. And then pushing back up, almost taking the hips away from the mat to really get that squeeze across the lower back. Looking up at the ceiling, and then just dropping the hips ever so slightly, so the hip bones are then making contact with the mat there, for me, there. Really putting some pressure in the backs of the wrists. And from here, we're going to take the feet off the mat ever so slightly. And so the knees are off the mat, but the thighs are still on the mat. So just taking the knees away, feet facing up. Soles of the feet facing up. I'm going to take the hands away. Behind us, so the palms are facing up too. Keeping the head facing the mat. I'm just going to hold it here
just for a few seconds. You should really feel that squeeze here across the lower back. So palms facing up, feet facing up, and just feel your thighs just slightly attached to the mat still, facing down, keeping the spine in a nice neutral line. And then returning back to the mat with the head on the side, allowing the shoulders to just kind of flop forwards onto the mat. You should feel a little bit of a pull here where we've worked these muscles. So to reverse that work just there, we're going to put the hands back by the sides of the chest, tucking the toes underneath. We're just going to draw ourselves up and then push straight back down with flat feet now into this pose here, keeping the legs wide and just letting the belly and the chest just kind of flop in between if you can, really extending the arms out, palms face down, fingers spread wide, keeping the forehead down on the mat and the forearms down from the elbows down. And then bringing the arms underneath. Bringing the arms underneath like this. So the palms are facing up now and the head's on one side. This is called embryo pose. Maybe it's true embryo pose if we actually bring the knees in ever so slightly. So the chest is on top of the knees. And if you want to widen the legs back out and let the chest flop in between, and then we return the hands back like this, palms face down, head into the mat. This is extended child pose. We're just going to imagine now that we've got an invisible rope around our wrists and someone's pulling those wrists as far away as they'll go. So we get a nice extension all up the back just here. From here, we're going to put the weight back into the hands, back into the knees. Just pushing back up, dipping the back, really raising the bum up to the ceiling. I'm actually going to walk my hands a bit further in so they're in a nice straight line underneath the shoulders. Hip distance apart with the knees, the hands match. So this is the cat. We're going to roll it over, head down, allowing the head to be heavy. I'm going to turn over onto my knuckles. And this is the cow. Just going to hold it here for a few seconds. Really rounding the back off now. And then flattening those palms back out, pushing the head back up to the ceiling, dipping the lower back and raising the bum. So we're back into the cat. I'm going to hold it here for a few seconds. And then dropping the head again, rolling the back out. I'm going to turn my hands over onto my knuckles. So we can just flip between the cow and the cat. Just loosening out those muscles. We're going to take the body further back down to the mat. So this time we're on those forearms, fingers are spread wide, hands are face down. We've got the chest off the mat, but the tummy button is still pushed down into the mat. And we can either gaze forwards, we can take the gaze a little bit further up, reaching with the eyes up to where the wall meets the ceiling. And here we just concertina in the spine, ever so slightly further. If that's too much for you, then just draw the gaze back down so you're just facing forwards. It's really a hard place to work the lower back just here. But it's really important. I'm just going to sit back up now. Just gradually sit yourself up. Just going to sit on the knees. I'm going to take the hands up to the ceiling, pushing the hands away, squeezing squeezing the arms into the sides of the head, just here, getting a nice squeeze. I'm just going to take a little bend over here, just to one side, just extending out this side here. Going to come back up to the middle and then just squeeze ever so slightly over to the other side, keeping the shoulders back. So it's a really, I'm going to shake the arms out now, it's a really important part of the back to work, because if you build up more muscle on the front, because it's easier to do sit-ups than it is to do back stuff, then you'll find that the muscles in the front weigh more than the muscles in the back, so you will get an imbalance in weight from front to back, and that's really not going to help your posture at all. So to keep everything super balanced, we need to make sure that we've distributed the weight that we build up in the muscle. Muscle weighs more than fat, so actually if you increase weight by doing this, it's just because you're improving the muscle tone and it weighs more as a result of that. But it's really important to do everything in pairs. Every action has a reaction and every muscle has a partner, and it's really important to work all of those things as one, which is why I wanted to follow from the last video onto this video. So hopefully if you do watch them in order, then they will make sense, but obviously you can, watch them however you like. So I'm just going to give my feet a little wipe off, and then we're going to bring the mat in, bring the ball in, and you can see today's exercise. So it's going to be very slight, subtle movements, but it's going to be a really intense way to work out the muscles around the spine, especially in the lower part of the back. So bringing the ball in, I've just shuffled as far back to the one edge of the mat as I can, and I'm going to put the ball at the tops of my thighs, into my pelvic floor area, and ultimately into my tummy, like this. So I'm flopped over the top of the ball. And I actually think this is the first exercise that I've done at Core & Co here where we've actually done this form of exercise where we've taken our weight over the ball. So I want you to take it super steady for the first time. It's really important that you don't have a slip while we conduct this. So with the toes turned under, so the backs of the toes are squeezed into the mat, we're going to use that leverage in the toes just to hoist ourselves up ever so slightly, and then we can put the hands straight down onto the front of the mat in front of us. So we've got all four hands and feet on the mat, and the ball is underneath that whole area. So from here, we can just walk the feet in ever so slightly. So it will take from the centre up to the head, it will take that half of our body just slightly further. And we need to create a distance here because we're going to drop our head really low. So we're almost just on the tippy toes. So you can either turn the toes under or you can put the toes flat, so the mat is actually underneath the front of the toes. So front of the toes, back of the toes, front of the toes, back of the toes, however you feel comfortable. And remember, the more surface area we create, the more contact and the more area of balance that we're going to have. So I would advise that to start off with, I would take the feet as wide as they'll go. So the toes are still on the mat and you've not moved over onto carpet. But if you had a couple of mats and you could put them together, or you had a really large matted area, then you could take the legs super wide and you would have a huge point of contact. But that's, a bit kind of unnecessary for this. We're just going to take the feet as wide as they'll go in relation to the edges of the mat. And the same with the hands. So you can actually drop the head down. So I'm right on the tippy toes, just here like this. And with the hands still facing down on the mat, we're just going to push up to here. So we get this little squeeze just there. So just coming back down and then pushing back up. So this is a really simplified version of this. And that might be just enough depending on your ability, your age range, or your confidence. You might, because this is something you don't want to get wrong. So if this is the first time for you doing something like this, just respect your boundaries and make sure that you don't push yourself too far. But we are going to take our hands away now. So taking the hands away, we're going to take them away in variations. So if you want to keep this really simple, you can just keep your hands like this in your lower back. We're going to drop the head, bearing in mind now that the only point of contact that we have is with our feet. So if you feel a little wobbly, make sure you take those feet nice and wide. And then from here, so this is kind of a starting position. Sorry, I'm just going to shuffle that ball a little further underneath there so you can just lift yourself up, shuffle the ball back with the hand, and then just drop the core, the tops of the thighs, the tummy muscles, drop that over the top. So in doing so, by drawing that ball back ever so slightly, it's opened up this upper body area for me to then drop my head closer down to the mat. Don't forget, the head is the heaviest part of the body, so the weight of the head will naturally draw you forward. And it's okay if your feet lift off the mat ever so slightly, you know, just until you find your balance point. So the head's on the mat. So the starting position is going to be slightly, with the head slightly off the mat, but gazing down at the mat. And if you put your hands like this, so you get a nice straight line from the shoulder down to the wrist. So if you put your hands in line like that, that gap between the two hands, if you focus in the middle of that gap, that's a really good focal point to keep your gaze, to keep your spine in a neutral position. So we're going to take the hands into the small of the back. So imagine where you were just looking. And then from here, we're going to dip the head right down. And then we're going to squeeze back up. Not too far, just squeeze up just a little bit. So your spine's in a nice neutral line. You're almost like a little baby seal right now. The hands just in the lower back, or by the sides, or just on the bum cheeks. It's up to you. But from here, we're going to do 10 reps. So when you're ready and you feel balanced, remember to lock that core in nice and tight. You're going to drop the head down, staring at this point right here, right in front of you, and then raising back up just to here. That's 2, 3, nice and gradually. 4, keep focused on that point with your eyes, just here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And just hold it out here, keeping the hands behind the back, keeping the mat, keeping the ball pushed down nice and firmly into the mat. My toes are turned under, so I've got the weight behind the big toes. Just going to focus on this point here, keeping the spine in a nice neutral position. And we're just going to almost really flop and relax. Put the hands back down. Relax the feet off. I like to just roll forward a bit so I can get my forearms down. Just really opening out all of these muscles here. It's really subtle, but it's such a sensitive and taboo part of the body. It's really important that we do this really gradually and it makes sense to you. I don't want you to rush it. You're going to be, in a really unforgiving situation if you damage your spine. So really, really gentle. So turning the toes back underneath, for me, you might want to keep your toes flat. Turning the toes under, still keeping the feet nice and wide. We're going to increase the difficulty in a little bit by bringing the feet closer in together, which will decrease the surface area that we have, which will make the exercise in itself much harder. But for now, we'll still keep it quite wide. Weight behind the big toes. So from taking the hands here, we're going to increase the weight by taking the hands here. So the fingers are just in front of the ears and the elbows are pushed back. Don't let the elbows flop. Keep the elbows nice and proud. So still focused on this point right here in front of us. We're just going to dip down to here, and this is where we're going to start. We're going to do 10 reps from here. So just squeezing back up to this point here. So we get a nice straight line. So when you're ready, we're going to do 10 reps. That's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Still remembering to breathe as we push up. And 4, 3, 2, 1. And last one, we're going to hold it out here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Flopping forwards, flopping onto the forearms. I like to just rock ever so slightly back and forth. This will help increase your confidence on the ball by releasing your feet, because you can't see your feet, so you have to get a feel for it, and that will increase your confidence. So just rocking ever so slightly back and forth, really spreading the fingers nice and wide. Really flopping forward, allowing the head to be really heavy, just dropping the head down to the mat. It's okay if the feet come off the mat a bit. You've got your forearms down, you've got your head down, you've got a nice triangular surface contact. So this time we're going to go again. I'm going to bring my feet in much closer together. Still with the toes curled under. So you've got a little bit of play that you can control the backs of the toes. If we flatten our feet off like this and we go onto the fronts of the toes, then we don't have the same level of manipulation that we do if we turn the toes under like that. So that's another way to increase the difficulty. So for now, I'm going to keep the toes flexed like this with the weight behind the toes, but I'm going to draw them in so they're almost touching. We're going to go back to having the hands by the temples, elbows back. Think about where that gaze is. Drawing the tummy in nice and tight. I know it sounds like a bizarre thing to say, drawing the tummy muscles in nice and tight when they're squished into a ball, but you're still able to use that control in the core, even though you've got your weight over a ball. So keeping those feet together, toes tucked under. We're just going to go for 10 reps from here. So when you're ready, we're going to lift up for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Don't overextend. Focus on your breathing. Last one, and hold it here. We're going to do some little pulses for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Taking the feet up. Just rocking ever so slightly back and forth. This time we're going to tuck the toes under. We're going to put the mat on the fronts of the big toes, and you'll feel the difference. Maybe you want to widen them back out at this point, just so you've got that greater surface area. So keeping the weight slightly backwards, just so the weight is being controlled by the hips. Taking the palms out in front of the ears, keeping the elbows nice and wide. We're just going to do 10 here. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And then if you want to actually push your hands into the ball and draw your arms up. So remember that stretch we did when we were on the mat? It's called Cobra stretch, where you had your elbows locked out. Well, not locked out entirely, a little sponginess, but really squeezed in, head back, all the way back, really squeezing in that lower back, stretching out the neck, tucking the toes under, controlling the ball with the feet, the weight's in the heels still. You can just rock ever so slightly back and forwards. Drawing the gaze down, so we are facing forward now. This is quite an intense exercise and it's important not to overdo it here. So we're going to just do one slight variation and then we'll finish with some stretches for now. So just allowing the tummy to come back onto the mat, into the chest, hands down. I'm going to tuck my toes back under for this and spread my feet quite wide because I want to get a really good surface area. So this time, we're still going to keep the elbows wide, but as we come up, I'll just show you. So as we come up, we're going to just put a little twist, just a little one, and then back, and then down. So up, twist, back, down, and we'll revert from left to right, and we'll do 10. So we're only going to be doing 5 on each side for now. If you want to increase that difficulty and do 20, so you do 10 on each side, then that's entirely up to you. But we're just going to start this with really small repetitions. So when you're ready, get your balance, get your fixed gaze and that point in the mat right here, right there. Right in between where your hands would be if your hands were on the mat. You're going to focus at that point. So taking the hands nice and wide, spreading the fingers, fingertips in front of the ears, elbows nice and wide, dropping the chin. If you want to curl the head in even more so, you can take the gaze back up at the ball. So you're actually looking kind of here, the ball underneath you. And that changing that gaze ever so slightly will just allow the head to drop down a bit more. So you can actually squeeze in more as you come up. But that's entirely up to you. So as we come up, we're just going to put a little twist. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's halfway, 6, 7, 8, nice and controlled, 9, and 10. Hands down. I'm just going to draw those feet in, really squeezing the ball in. I'm going to bend my knees ever so slightly. I'm going to push myself back up to standing. If you want to get off the ball a different way, if you're down here, how else can we get off the ball? So I would literally just take one hand away, just take the weight over to one side, and just scoot the ball out the way, like that. But you can roll back off the ball, it's up to you, just make sure you get on and off the ball really safely. So getting onto the ball for this exercise, we're going to start at the back of the mat, and we're going to just drop our knees into the ball, so the weight's on the toes there, dropping the weight forward, and then just slumping everything over the top of the ball. And then to get off, we can take the weight back where it came from, like this. Or just take the weight over to your, probably best over to your dominant side, and then just move the ball out, just bringing these in. Okay, so we'll just finish with a few little stretches. We're going to go back to lying on the front of the mat. Head facing down, forehead on the mat, palms by your sides, arms by your sides, palms facing up, allowing the feet to just flop out, allowing the heels to just flop out to the sides. And we're going to lay with our head on the side as well now. Just taking a few deep breaths here, and you should feel all of that around here. It's a really good complete workout because so many people are under this misconception that the core is just the abdominals, just the front, but the core is all the way around. So we're going to be doing lots of different exercises where we focus on all the different stages of the core, including all the side. We're going to be doing some twisting stuff. So I just wanted to show you that particular exercise because it's really good. And like I said before, it's the kind of the opposite of what we did in the last video. And following that knitting needle theory, it's really good to have them together as for balance. So we're just going to lift the hands away off the mat, and lift the feet away. Just going to turn the head round to the front.
Just focusing on the front of the mat. I'm just focusing here, just where the mat meets the carpet. So the thighs are still on the mat just here, but the knees are off the mat. The hands are off the mat. We're just going to hold it here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we're going to draw the hands and the feet together like this. And we're just going to push out there. This is called bow pose, so you are a bow. You should feel the weight of the hip bones just pressing down into the mat, and we can actually pivot the weight from front to back. Just get a nice little rock motion. This might be too much for some people, so if you can just lift the legs up, bending the knees back, just taking the arms into the air ever so slightly, just holding on here is absolutely fine. If you can, reach the feet, reach the ankles, and then just drawing that weight up. Just relaxing the legs down, just holding on to the feet if you can, head facing down, making contact with the mat. Just going to let the legs drop away. Put the hands by the chest, spreading the fingers out nice and wide, just taking the head off the mat, facing forward. And then we're going to push up here. So this is I think this is baby cobra or sphinx. Actually, I think it's sphinx pose. It depends kind of what principles you're following. But this is either a baby cobra or a sphinx. So from here with baby cobra, I'm just going to push up here into big cobra. So just taking the hips away, straightening the arms out, keeping the weight in the palms, so you can almost jiggle the fingers. This is really good for just opening up the chest. It's really good for improving breathing exercise as well. And then just allowing the weight to just drop the hips back onto the mat, pushing the elbows back ever so slightly. So the chest is still away from the mat. Just holding it here. So from here, we're just going to do some stretches where instead of being all stretched out, we're going to be all scrunched up. So just tucking the toes under, we're going to push back up into the downward dog. We can flatten out the heels so the feet are nice and flat on the mat. Taking the gaze back up through the arms, gazing back up at the belly button here. If you can't get your heels down and you're kind of like this, then just bring your feet in ever so slightly, just so you get a nice flat point of contact with the whole of the sole of the foot. Really pushing the bum back, straightening out those legs, staring back up at the belly button. And from here, we're going to drop the knees and then take that gaze up, flattening the feet out, dipping the back, sticking the bum up nice and high, just drawing the hands in ever so slightly. So you've got a nice straight line here. We're going to go back into cat-cow, how we finished off. So cat, and then roll over into the cow. Squeezing back up, pushing back up into the cat, and then rolling back over into the cow. We're just going to sit back onto the heels, taking the legs quite wide, sitting back onto the heels, dropping all the tummy all in between the legs if you can. Just extending the arms out, extended child pose, and allowing the head to be heavy, dropping the forehead down to the mat. We're just going to hold it here. Think about all the good work that we've done today. We're just going to take the arms by the sides, so the tops of the shoulders are kind of over the tops of the knees.
So your hands should be quite wide at this point, your arms should be quite wide. My arms are off the mat. Palms are facing up, head is over to the side. Just really relaxing all of the tummy now. My tummy's really flopped in between my legs. Just really relaxing all of those core muscles. You take the head over to the other side if you like. And then when you're ready, just pushing back up, just coming back up to seating. Okay, everybody, I hope that you enjoyed today's exercise. I know it can be a little bit intense, but it's a really good practice to follow if you're going to do some tummy stuff. It's really good that you do everything in harmony. So I hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you liked it, you can say so down here. Please leave me all your feedback and any comments and questions as well. So thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.